I just don't know where the oxygen is. It's sucking it in, but it's like you're just sucking in empty.
So what is the Climb to Kaiser? Well, the numbers say it's 155 miles, it's 15,000 meters of climbing. It's rated in the top 10 hardest bike rides in the US. The numbers are mind-blowing, right? But the thing that those numbers don't say is that all that climbing, the majority of that climbing, comes in the first half of the ride. Meaning not only are you climbing endlessly, but you eventually start doing that at altitude. It's a hard day out, but why the hell am I doing this? Like, I'm from Sydney, Australia. Why am I doing this random hard bike ride in the middle of California? Well, to explain that, I kind of just have to talk a little bit about my own cycling story, I suppose. My wife's been coming here since she was a baby. She has family here, but we first came here in about 2008 when we were living in Ireland. And it was at just the time when I was starting to get into cycling. I was right at that point when I was almost fully embracing Lycra. I may have still had a pair of shorts on over the Lycra, but I was kind of at that phase. You all know it, right? But in that stay out here, I did a couple of group rides, and one of those group rides went up the Toll House climb. And it was the first ever climb I did. You know the one, right? The climb that it goes for so long, you don't even remember when you started. You probably got on and off your bike a few times. And then when you get to the top, you literally think you've just won a stage of the Tour de France. It was like this amazing achievement that I'd done. And that evening, over a beer or three, I was talking about my ride, and Julie and Bob, the guys I was staying with, were telling me, you know what, there's this event that uses the Toll House as part of it, and it's only like this small little part. Imagine doing this whole thing. And it's like the seed was planted. One day we'll come back and do this event. Okay, so that's enough narcissistic historical Chris anecdotes. Let's get into this event, this day itself. And like many of these things, it started with an event registration pickup the day before, which in this particular occasion was held at the Clovis Rodeo Showground. I can safely say it's the first time I've ever been to a rodeo showground. I did want to go in and just ask a few questions because this is the first mass participation event I've done outside of Australia. So I've certainly never signed up for a cycling event in a rodeo showground before, so that was super cool. Yeah, everything is set up, ready to go. I got a bit more of an idea about what's at the feed zones because that was kind of what's bothering me. It sounds like there's not really any drink mix. There's a bit of Gatorade, which as we know is a waste of time. It sounds like there will be some shot blocks, those like dewy type things, so that will be good. And I wanted to kind of know what the protocols are, and obviously we want to try and get some footage and that kind of stuff, but also like, how do the feed zones, like what's at these things, like where are they, you know, all that kind of information. So it was good to get my head around all that kind of stuff. And as we woke on Saturday morning at 4:30, which look, is a horrific number, don't get me wrong, but I can totally see why they have to start this event so early. Guys, the weather, I was so terrified about the weather and the heat, and we lucked out.
Woken to easily the coolest morning we've been here. Like it's essentially 12 degrees. It's cold. So up in the mountains it's going to be real cold, which has kind of thrown a bit of a spanner into my thinking about like dressing and even bring that kind of gear. So
like we got basically the nicest weather in the sort of 60, 70, 80 Fahrenheit, you know, in the 20-degree mark in the middle of June in Fresno. Like it was just the best weather you could possibly have hoped for.
I'm potentially a little underdressed, I'm sending a jacket up for the mountainy part. If it does get cold up there, I should be all right. But I actually feel like in these conditions, base layer, gilet will be enough. All right, I better get to the start line.
All right, hurry up. Got everything? Food, water. Do you need your phone?
Got it.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah.
No kiss, nothing? Cheers.
And rolling out at one of these sort of events is a very different feeling because you're not like nervous to make the break or anything. It's just this sense of unknown. And I gotta say, like, it's really intoxicating, that feeling. So anyway, as we rolled out, like, I hadn't paid any attention to what there's like 20 Ks till you start getting into hills. And I hadn't really thought at all about that kind of part of the race. It was, look, I don't know whether there were people there who were doing different rides or what, but like, it was on. So I sort of rolled out at the back just because I was a bit late, rolled out at the back through the sort of start gate thing. And as we exited the showground, I'm like, there are splits happening. We're in the gutter. And so I'm chopping off with these 3 other guys. It took us like 10 minutes to get up to what was the kind of front group. I had no idea this was going to be how it started. So as we started to roll our way into the foothills of the climbs, I just want to take a quick moment to talk about my bike. Well, not my bike. So this is a borrowed bike. A massive shout to Mike at Rubber Sole here in Fresno, who essentially just lent me his bike. And the bike was a 2012 Cannondale Evo, top of the line frame from back in 2012. We had mechanical 10-speed mix, and this is kind of interesting. So a mix of some Durace parts, so the crankset and levers were Durace parts, and we put a mountain bike derailleur, a Diora derailleur on it, and a 34 105 cassette on it. You're going to need that kind of gearing. But yeah, a 10-speed, mechanical, 2012 frame, some FSA componentry in the cockpit, and a power tap. I don't think I've ever ridden with a power tap before. Super accurate, was great, was really good. But again, this is a 10-year-old bike, and it was kind of weird because here I was doing the biggest bike ride I've ever done, full stop, right? Not on my bike. It was really quite a weird sensation. As far as how it handled, how it performed, I want to do something particularly standalone on that because I've got some great thoughts, or at least I do, think on that now after such a big event on a bike that is, you know, not from our time. The entree to this whole thing is Wilds Valley. Like, it's funny, in any other bike race I would do, like, these climbs would be like the selection points, but because of the mammoth-ness of this particular event, it's just like, oh yeah, whatever, I didn't even think about that bit. And, you know, we got over that, and there was really then just a group of kind of 10 to 12 over that.
Can I just say, wearing a skin suit for 255 Ks is very, very confronting for everyone else.
You got to rep the team right now.
Nice, mate.
You want to go?
That is.
And as we came into Toll House, some of the guys that I were with pulled in for a stop. They wanted to fill up some water bottles. Now, I had planned potentially sort of 2 stops in this whole day because I was carrying all my fuel. Like, I'm just used to that. Like, and I'll get more onto the fueling strategy as we go along. But some of the guys pulled in, some of the other guys didn't want to kind of go at the speed I was going to go at. And so
I've just started the Toll House climb, which is the first of the Oars category climbs. But it's interesting, right? Because, like, I was in a strong group there to the base, but a lot of them stopped. And I've got heaps of fuel on board. I've been fueling. I don't really see any need to stop yet, apart from just doing a piss. So, I don't know. Maybe this strategy will kill me in the end, but I've got fuel, been fueling, set a good rev limiter, about 260, 270. Just gonna tap away, see how we go.
So tapping up Toll House alone, you start to think a little bit more about your preparation and your training, okay? Because obviously then you're not following someone's wheel, or you're not like even in conversation, or sort of, you know, got that sort of rapport going with a group, you're obviously starting to be in your own space a bit more. And I kind of want to share that maybe with you guys. So I talk a little bit about my training for the last 3 or 4 months. And I have been training, okay? It's the first time I can stand in front of you guys and say, I have actually been training. But not for this event. And any of you guys that do follow me on Strava or anything like that will probably see that a lot of the stuff that I've been doing has been 2-hour rides, but short efforts. So you'll see a lot of 3-minute stuff. You'll see a lot of 30-second on, 15-second off. You'll see 30-second on, 20-second off. All sort of, you know, high threshold stuff. Thrown into that, you'll see some sub-threshold stuff with bursts of, or not necessarily sprints, but, you know, super high threshold stuff. So maybe, for example, I might do 40 minutes at sub-threshold, which for me is about 300 watts at sea level. And then every 2.5 minutes, a burst. So, you know, a 400 to 500 watt burst in that. So,
It's just thinking, it's so weird managing this effort, because it's like, I feel fresh, I feel good, but you're like, there's so much to come. And then throw in the elevation. You're just constantly like, no, don't do. Like this little roller. Literally like, I'll just put some power out over it. Nope, little ring. Spin over it. It's interesting.
and at this point, right, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, that's useless, Chris, because you're about to do 255 Ks of climbing at, you know, none of those intensities. And you are dead right. And guys, here's the thing, and this is why I'm really keen to share what's happening with me, but here's the thing, unlike unqualified YouTubers, I'm not going to tell you why I'm doing that, because I'm not a coach, I can't tell you why.
So whilst there's nothing in my training to suggest that this is well prepared for an event, like for me, just having in the back of my brain that I am committing to a training plan, it's kind of a weird sense of like confidence. Like I'm not going to go near any of that VO2 stuff today, but it's kind of supportive, and I think that's just a massive element, you know.
There are moments in an event like this where you're doubting yourself and you're thinking, well, hang on, like I've been doing all this VO2 stuff and 2 hours, like I should be turning around and going home now, and I'm not even a third of the way into this. So yeah, that's what started to creep into my brain as we were heading up.
The plan certainly wasn't to be solo after 2.5 hours, which is going to be like 6 hours by myself. Well, people will probably catch me on the downhill, but yeah, so it's just you and me, guys. 2.5 hours in.
And after you crest out Toll House, you just keep climbing. You just keep climbing, because that's what today is all about. And I decided I want to pull into the Shaver Lake rest stop.
Thank you.
How's it going?
Great. Awesome.
Good.
I dropped my Twinkie. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
no.
the one. But I went back and got it.
Priorities. Can I hold your pipe?
Would you mind?
There are plenty of rest stops, heaps of fuel in them, heaps of drink in them, which was fantastic. But, you know, I always say to you guys in these sort of things, stopping is what kills your time. Not only does it kill your time, it just kills your momentum. I honestly think it kills your legs. So this maybe gives me a chance just to talk a little bit about my own fueling strategy, which was to basically carry everything I need. Okay, obviously water aside, which I could only take limited amounts of, everything else I was trying to cover. And I was still shooting for between 80 to 100 grams of carbs an hour. And I'm going to be out there for almost 9 hours.
I just inhaled sugar that entire ride. I had no normal food. I just had gummy bears, gels, Fruit Loops, Twisty. What were they? Twizzlers? No. Twinkies. Every ride needs a treat. Thank you, America.
Dropping down into Big Creek, I did Big Creek when I was here last, 3 or 4 years ago. It is a moonscape. Now, it's terrifying what the fire damage is.
Pretty wild, isn't it? Kind of really sucks.
Yeah, it's quite confronting, to be honest.
Came through the Shaver Lake rest stop and my way to Big Creek now. So scared of this climb. It's just horrendous. I think there's a guy not far behind me. I don't think he stopped, so he might catch me on this, so we'll might have someone to talk to.
Big Creek is the hardest single climb of the ride. It's an average of 13%, and you're just at altitude at this point. It's death.
I'll hopefully see at the top.
And it has this vista, right, where you can see the road snaking up this cliff, and you're thinking to yourself, that can't be my road. I'm down here, and it's up there.
Almost there. It's just impossible to pace yourself. You just ride whatever gearing you have. Like, I had a 39, 34. Could have done with a couple more. But I think we're just in the final rollers here.
Which brings me to,
Ah, shit, I went the wrong way. There's no signs there. I went completely the wrong way for about a K. Fuck! Ah, that's so annoying.
trying not to ride angry after making a mistake like that is a real challenge, because you immediately, you've got this adrenaline rush and like, oh shit, I have to catch back up, blah, blah, blah.
So annoyed. I'm trying not to do the stupid thing of like riding angry. Just stick to what I was doing. Oh man, so frustrating.
Thinking, Chris, you know what? The hardest thing is still to come. So whatever, you're feeling good, you're clearly sort of being able to put time into people, so just back yourself. And as you start to climb up Kaiser, the final climb, sort of on the way out, right? It's a climb in two parts. You've got this section of like 5, 6, 7%, which is, you could get a gear over. Like you look at it and you're like, yeah, I can set a good rhythm here. You can't, because you've got this mileage in your legs, and also now you're starting to get toward 9,000 feet.
This is like the middle section of Kaiser. It's just, I have no power. It's just the air. So I'm just riding at what feels sustainable, knowing the top is basically just a grind. You've got to have something in the tank for that. So, I'm trying to say I'm cruising to them. It's not that at all. It's so demoralizing watching the power.
And this is a moment to turn your metrics off and just go purely on feel, because the power just drops away. It just drops away and shows you numbers that you would see on a recovery ride, and you can't do a thing about it. And the effort is just high. And the reason I say the first part of Kaiser and the second part of Kaiser is because you swing onto this like goat road, which is the final 2Ks. Like beautiful, right? I think. All I'm looking at is like 4 meters in front of me, head down, because there's just nothing, there's no energy in you, and you're just trying to crawl up it, doing whatever you do.
Nope. Was that's some of the lowest I've felt on a bike. Just zapped, like in the lungs.
Getting to the top was pretty cool. I also was able to fill my water bottles, get some cliff shots on board, which I hadn't actually planned for. I didn't think there'd be much feeding up there, so I was really pleased to get a lot of that on board and just keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. Turned around, dropped back down the other side. And I knew pretty much all the rest of the ride. And what I did know is after you drop off Kaiser, you don't go back the same way.
I turned around and I'm meant to be going downhill back to Clovis. Turns out that's not really the case. So got this 3K climb and then another couple of that distance before I get onto a really long descent. So I can't talk.
What they do is they throw you up one more pass. But personally, I've got to say, it's almost the climb I felt the best on all day. I don't know whether it's just the achievement. Oh, okay, I know I've got over the hardest part now. These are the final bits before big descents. In fact, it's the first time I've ever done a mass event where I put headphones in and just listen to music. Because I'm like, all right, let's roll.
Just over 7 hours in now. Apart from the altitude issues, I think I managed the fueling really well. I've just been piling sugar into my face. There's no other way to describe it. It's not attractive, it's not nutritious, but it's so effective.
So the running then for me was just purely about managing the resources that I had in my back pockets and just making sure that I kept fueling, even though I was essentially, only pedaling every now and again, because I knew as I came back into town, there was a good sort of 30 Ks of rolling stuff. And my plan at this point was to not stop, okay? I didn't want to stop. I thought I could get through this without having to stop. And I have to say, this is where the weather came out for me, because, if it was 40 degrees, over 100 degrees as you come back into Fresno, you would have had to stop for water one more time. I didn't have to.
Not far. Not far.
You know what? I felt pretty good. I felt really good. I'd fueled myself really well. I actually started on the caffeine gels as I got to the top of Aubrey Road and came in pretty well.
Turns out when you come into town, you get a bucket of lights. So, yeah, I'm not having much luck here. Anyway, good excuse, Chris. Hang on. Let me just beat off the surrounding media. And, hang on, there's jeez, I've got to fight them back. Hey guys.
You're the first one in.
Yeah.
Did you do the whole thing?
No, I decided to do bits. I wasn't the whole thing. In fact, I did an extra bit. Because,
you got your checks? Yeah, you're good. You're the first one.
1063.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Good job, first one.
So guys, I've talked about the fueling, I've talked about mentally my strategy, I've talked about the training, I've talked about the bike, and I've sort of talked about the overall experience. What I suppose is the selling point for this ride if you want to come and do this?
It's such a hard ride to describe because you're never in like white hot pain, but you're never comfortable. So it's this weird mix of just in the sort of middle zone or upper middle zone forever and ever and ever. And then of course there's this added mix of the elevation when you get to Kaiser that just totally throws every metric you've ever known out the window. And it's a really bizarre experience. So for me, I completely just segmented the whole ride. So everything, my mentally it was like, get to Wilds, do that. Get to Toll House, do that. Get to Big Creek, then do Big Creek. And like on my bike computer, I never displayed distance. I never displayed time. So I was able to just mentally not think about, oh my God, I've got so far to go. It was just like keep ticking off boxes as I went along.
But what about the event itself? Guys, the rest stops are amazing. Like they are supported by this sort of football team of super supportive, positive volunteer people. My only comment on that would maybe to be using those human resources just a little bit different, like get some people out marshalling the road. Like I did find myself for long periods of time, like without seeing one person associated to the event on the road. And I do really specifically think between the top of Toll House and Big Creek, that really busy road could just do with some more support people on the road.
They weren't wrong about a busy road.
Just calming things down for motorists, because I think if they saw that there were people out there supporting a bike event, they might be a little bit more patient. Because guys, I'll be totally honest with you, I have never copped as much road abuse in my life as I did in that 15-kilometre section of road. It was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. Like, yeah, anyway, but it did not overshadow what was an amazing event, and a massive shout to Fresno Cycling Club and the Climb to Kaiser crew for putting that together.
So the real reason I came to do Climb to Kaiser, is the traditional annual C2K. You gotta get to the top of this, I've done enough climb.
He gets a cramp halfway up.
Is this extra elevation?
16,000 feet.
And then some.
This is the bit I've been looking forward to. Bullshit!
Send help! Send David Hasselhoff!
Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed that longer format of vlog. I had an absolute ball meeting everyone out here doing this event. And yeah, if you've got any questions, any comments about it, please do pop them below. I am keen to do something more specific on this bike that I've got for another week. I'll see how we get on. All right, guys, thank you so much. Peace.